Today's briefing. Zero-day mitigations land. A fresh Linux privilege escalation gets a public exploit. AI-driven domain lookalikes move from user error to supply chain risk, and a new batch of actively exploited bugs enters the federal risk queue. Let's get you the operational details and what to do next. If you're new here, this channel distills the week's most actionable cybersecurity developments for practitioners. We focus on facts, impact, and Defender takeaways you can move on today. First, Microsoft shares mitigation for YellowKey, a Windows BitLocker zero-day. Headline context: a recently disclosed vulnerability nicknamed YellowKey allows access to BitLocker protected drives by bypassing security controls. Key facts: Microsoft has provided mitigations while the issue is under active review. The flaw targets BitLocker's protections, enabling access to data on protected drives. This is part of an ongoing situation with heightened attention following public disclosure. Why it matters: when disk encryption controls are bypassed, device loss, theft, or brief hands-on access can translate directly into data exposure. Public awareness compresses Defender response time as attacker interest typically spikes. Defender takeaway: review and apply Microsoft's published mitigations immediately across Windows fleets using BitLocker. Prioritize high-risk and mobile endpoints, tighten physical access controls, and increase monitoring for anomalous BitLocker events and policy changes. Staying on YellowKey, Microsoft releases mitigation guidance for the BitLocker bypass, tracked as CVE-2026-45585. Headline context: this is the formal tracking of the same underlying issue as a security feature bypass in Windows. Key facts: the vulnerability, now assigned CVE-2026-4585 with a CVSS score of 6.8, was publicly disclosed last week, and Microsoft has acknowledged it and issued mitigation steps. Why it matters: a cataloged CVE and published score signals standardized risk handling across tooling and workflows, enabling faster triage and control validation. Defender takeaway: update vulnerability scanners and risk registers to include CVE 2026-4585. Verify coverage in your endpoint hardening baselines, and validate that the vendor-recommended mitigations are enforced and monitored in configuration management. Where possible, conduct spot checks to confirm BitLocker policies remain intact after the changes. Next, exploit released for the new PinTheft archlinux root escalation flaw. Headline context: PinTheft is a recently patched Linux privilege-escalation vulnerability affecting archlinux systems. Key facts: a public proof-of-concept exploit is now available, enabling a local attacker to gain root privileges on affected hosts. While patches exist, a previously unknown vulnerability now as an active public exploit in the wild. Why it matters: this flaw escalates privilege for attackers, potentially allowing full control over compromised machines. Defender takeaway: ensure all archlinux systems are updated with the latest patches. Review local user privileges, tighten access controls, and monitor logs for unusual privilege adjustments and unauthorized root activity. The availability of a PoC lowers the barrier for misuse. Why it matters: local privilege escalation turns minor footholds into full compromise, enabling credential theft, persistence, and defense evasion. With a working PoC, opportunistic abuse in shared or developer systems becomes more likely. Defender takeaway: apply the archlinux updates that address PinTheft without delay, especially on developer workstations, jump hosts, and CI/CD runners. Limit interactive shell access, monitor for unusual setuid or privilege escalation behavior, and review recent local user activity for anomalies on unpatched systems. Now, typosquatting is no longer just a user problem, it's a supply chain problem. Headline context: attackers are embedding AI-generated lookalike domains inside legitimate third-party scripts that run on your web properties. Key facts: rather than waiting for a mistyped URL by an end user, adversaries hide references to deceptive domains within the code you import, evading traditional controls that focus on end-user browsing mistakes. Existing stacks often miss these because the malicious domains are invoked by trusted scripts rather than direct user navigation. Why it matters: this shifts the attack surface to your application supply chain, enabling data exfiltration, skimming, or session hijacking through dependencies you already allow. Defender takeaway: build and maintain an inventory of third-party scripts in use, implement strict content security policy and sub-resource integrity where feasible, and monitor DNS and outbound requests from web apps for newly observed or lookalike domains. Consider allow listing known script endpoints and alerting on deviations in script checksums or hostnames. Finally, CISA adds 7 known exploited vulnerabilities to its catalog. Headline context: these entries are based on evidence of active exploitation in the wild. Key facts: the additions include multiple older vulnerabilities across widely deployed software families, signaling that legacy flaws remain reliable targets. Placement in the catalog indicates confirmed exploitation and elevates remediation priority for many organizations. Why it matters: even dated bugs continue to underpin intrusions, especially on unmanaged assets, legacy systems, or internet-exposed services that escaped previous patch cycles. Defender takeaway: cross-reference the updated KEV catalog against your asset inventory. Identify in-scope systems and assign urgent remediation tasks per your policy. Where immediate patching isn't possible, apply vendor-recommended mitigations, segment exposure, and implement compensating controls, then verify closure through scanning and log review. Across today's stories, two themes stand out. Active or likely exploitation compresses your response window, and trusted components, whether disk encryption, third-party scripts, or legacy software, are prime targets. Prioritize mitigation, validate controls, and verify results. If this roundup helped you operationalize the week's risks, subscribe, share with your team, and check your advisories for the exact mitigation steps discussed today.